Jake Callahan had always believed that life worked in quiet patterns. He woke early, fed the horses, fixed whatever needed fixing, and spent the rest of the day working under the open Texas sky. The ranch where he lived was small but peaceful. The kind of place where the only noises were cattle lowing in the distance and the rustling wind moving through dry grass. Jake liked it that way. Simple days suited him. He did not look for excitement and never imagined that one unexpected moment on a lonely road would change the calm world he built for himself. That evening, the sun had already dropped behind the hills, leaving a soft purple shade in the sky. Jake drove his old pickup truck toward home after a long day of picking up supplies for the ranch. The road was mostly empty, the kind of quiet stretch where a person could spend an hour without seeing another car. Jake didn't mind the silence. It gave him time to think, though. Truthfully, he didn't think about much beyond what he needed to do the next day. Fencing repairs, a check on the water tanks, maybe a visit to the feed store if the weather held. He hummed softly to the music playing from his radio, an old country station that sometimes crackled with static. The warm air drifted through the open window, carrying the scent of dust and summer heat. Everything felt normal, ordinary, even. Jake glanced at the dashboard clock, figuring he would be home in 20 minutes. He was already picturing his small cabin, the porch light turning on automatically, and the friendly neigh of his horse, Scout, who always greeted him when he returned late. But just as Jake rounded a gentle curve in the road, his headlights caught something unusual, something that made his easygoing thoughts freeze. Off the right side of the highway, down a small embankment, he saw the faint glimmer of metal. At first, he thought it might be a piece of farm equipment or an old abandoned car. People sometimes left strange things out here. But then he noticed smoke drifting upward, thin but steady, like a slow signal in the dark. Jake slowed down immediately. His heart beat a little faster, not from fear, but from the sense that something wasn't right. He pulled his truck onto the shoulder, grabbed his flashlight, and stepped outside. The warm night air wrapped around him. But there was another smell too, something sharp and unnatural. He walked toward the embankment, his boots crunching against gravel. When he reached the edge and shined his light downward, he finally saw it clearly. A van lying on its side, partly hidden by bushes. It looked like it had left the road and slid down the small slope, maybe rolling before it stopped. One of its back windows was cracked, and the front bumper was pressed into a cluster of dry weeds. Smoke puffed from under the hood, not thick but enough to worry him. Jake blinked in surprise, trying to understand what might have happened. Maybe the driver had swerved to avoid an animal. Maybe they had been tired. It didn't matter. If someone was inside, they needed help right away. He moved quickly but carefully down the slope, steadying himself with one hand on a branch. When he got closer, he saw something that made him take a sharp breath. Inside the van, through the half-open side door, he thought he saw movement. A shadow, a small sound, almost like a soft cry. "Hello?" Jake called out gently, keeping his voice calm. "Is anyone there?" There was a pause. Then, faintly, he heard a response, a quiet voice, shaky and frightened. Here. We're here." "Mm-hmm." Jake's chest tightened. He hurried to the van, trying to look inside. His flashlight beam landed on two women, both seat-belted, but clearly shaken. The older one, sitting in the front passenger seat, had her arm against the door, trying to push it open. The younger one was in the back, holding onto the headrest with trembling hands. Their faces were pale, and dust from the road clung to their clothes. "It's okay," Jake said softly. "I'm going to help you. Just stay still for a moment." The older woman nodded, though she looked like she was trying not to cry. We tried to stop the car, but it slid," she whispered. "We didn't see the curve." Jake gave a reassuring smile. "Accidents happen. You're not alone now." He tested the passenger door carefully. It was stuck, but not impossible to move. He braced his feet, gripped the edge of the door, and pulled. The metal creaked, slowly giving way. With one more steady effort, the door loosened enough for him to open it wide. "Can you move your legs?" he asked the older woman. She hesitated. Yes, I think so. All right, I'll help you get out. He supported her as she leaned toward him, making sure she didn't slip. She winced a little. But Jake guided her gently until she was outside the van, standing on uneven ground. She held on to him for balance, breathing carefully. Thank you, she said. My name is Maria. And that's my sister, Elena. Jake nodded kindly. I'm Jake. Let me help her next. He returned to the van and crouched near the side door to speak to the younger sister. She looked younger than Maria by several years, maybe early 20s, with wide eyes filled with worry. But she managed a small, grateful smile. I'm going to help you climb out, all right? Jake said. Just take it slow. Okay, she whispered. He guided her step by step, making sure she didn't twist her ankle or lose her footing. When she finally reached solid ground, she breathed out shakily, as if relieved to be standing. Jake led both women a safe distance from the van. The smoke had thickened slightly, though there was no flame. He kept them calm, asking simple questions. Were they hurt? Could they stand? Did anything feel broken? Both women seemed mostly sore and shaken, but nothing serious. I'm going to call for help, Jake said gently. You two stay close. Maria nodded, holding her sister's hand. Jake returned to his truck and used his phone to contact emergency services, giving clear directions to their location. While he waited for them to arrive, he walked back to the sisters, keeping his steps steady to show there was no reason for fear. You're safe now, he told them, offering his jacket when he noticed a chill in the air. Help is coming. Maria accepted the jacket with a soft thank you, wrapping it around herself and her sister. We didn't think anyone would come down this road, she admitted. We've been here for a while before you showed up. Jake glanced around the deserted landscape, understanding. This highway gets pretty empty after sunset, he said. You're lucky I was running late today. Usually, I'd already be home by now. Elena managed a small smile. Then, I guess we're lucky you were late. Jake felt a warm tug in his chest, an emotion he couldn't quite name brought on by the simple relief in her voice. He didn't say anything, but he gave a gentle nod. A few minutes later, distant sirens broke the quiet air. The women straightened as the flashing lights grew closer. Jake stayed with them, making sure they didn't feel alone during the wait. When the ambulance arrived and the paramedics stepped out, Jake helped explain the situation but stayed close enough so the sisters could see him. As they were carefully helped into the ambulance, Maria looked back at Jake, her eyes filled with gratitude and calm. If you hadn't stopped, she began, but her voice softened into silence. Jake shook his head. Anyone would have stopped, but Maria didn't seem convinced. She held his gaze for a moment longer, then whispered, "Thank you." The ambulance doors closed, leaving Jake standing beneath the quiet night sky. He watched the red and white lights pull away, feeling a strange sense of connection to two strangers he had met only minutes earlier. Something about the moment stayed with him, settling deep in his mind. He didn't know why. He didn't know what it meant. But he did know one thing. This night was not just another ordinary evening. Something had shifted. And life as he had always known, it was no longer moving in its old quiet pattern. The night after the accident, Jake could not fall asleep as easily as he usually did. His small cabin felt quieter than normal, almost too still. He kept picturing the two sisters, Maria and Elena, sitting in the back of the ambulance, wrapped in his jacket and looking relieved, but also tired and shaken. Most days, Jake forgot people as quickly as he met them. But not these two. Their faces stayed with him, as if the moment had carved itself into his thoughts. By morning, the sun shone brightly, and the ranch went on like any other day. The horses neighed for their breakfast, and the dry breeze carried the same warm smell of hay and earth. Jake did his chores the way he always did, but something in him felt restless. When he finished tending to the animals, he found himself sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee, staring at the empty road. He tried to shake the feeling that he should check on the sisters, but the thought kept returning. They're probably fine, he told himself. The hospital must be taking good care of them. But still, a quiet tug inside him whispered that it wouldn't hurt to visit. The sisters had seemed nervous and worn out, and even though they didn't say much that night, Jake sensed they had gone through more than just a simple accident. Something in their eyes hinted at deeper worry. He didn't want to assume anything, but he also didn't want to ignore the feeling that they needed a steady presence right now. He washed up, grabbed a clean shirt, and headed into town. The drive was short, but he could feel his heart beating a little faster as he pulled into the small hospital parking lot. He wasn't sure what he would say. Maybe he would just check in, make sure they had everything they needed. If nothing else, he wanted to return the jacket Maria still had. Inside the hospital, a nurse guided him to the waiting area, and after a few minutes, Maria appeared in the hallway. Her expression shifted from surprise to warmth when she saw him. "Jake," she said softly, a gentle smile forming. "You came? I wanted to make sure you and Elena were doing all right," he replied, rubbing the back of his neck in a shy gesture. "How are you feeling today?" "Better," she said. "A little sore, but nothing serious. Elena is resting. The doctor said she might be discharged this afternoon if everything looks good." Jake nodded, relieved. "I'm glad to hear that." Maria held his jacket out toward him. "Thank you again, you really helped us." "You can keep it for now," he said. "It looks warmer than those hospital blankets." She laughed softly, the first genuine laugh he had heard from her. "Maybe just for today." She led him to the small room where Elena lay, reading a magazine. When she looked up and saw Jake, her face brightened instantly. "You came back," she said, sounding surprised but happy. "I thought I'd check on you both," Jake said. Elena scooted up in her bed. "We're okay. A little shaken." She paused. Maria sat beside her sister, gently taking her hand. Jake sensed the bond between them, protective, close, and built on years of looking after each other. It made him respect them even more. After a few minutes of light conversation, a doctor entered with some papers. "Good news," she said. "Both of you are cleared to go home later today. Just some rest and fluids, all right?" Maria nodded gratefully. The doctor left, and the room fell quiet for a moment. "Do you two have a ride?" Jake asked gently. "Or someone who can help pick you up?" Maria and Elena exchanged a quick glance, one that Jake could not fully understand. Finally, Maria spoke. "No," she admitted. "We don't really have anyone nearby. We were traveling, trying to get to a friend's place, but we lost our way." Jake nodded slowly. He still didn't know the full story, but he could sense there was more behind their words. Something unspoken, something they weren't ready to explain. And he respected that. It wasn't his place to ask. "Not yet." "Well," he said, standing straighter, "I can give you a ride. It's no trouble." Maria looked relieved. "Thank you, Jake. We appreciate it." Later, when the paperwork was complete, Jake helped the sisters walk out of the hospital. Though they were both steady on their feet, they still looked tired. He opened the truck door for them, making sure Elena was comfortable in the back seat. As he drove through town, the sisters looked out the windows quietly. After a few minutes, Elena spoke in a soft voice. "Your truck is nice," she said. Jake chuckled lightly. "It's old, but it gets the job done." "I like old things," she said. "They have stories." Jake wasn't sure how to answer that, but Maria smiled at him knowingly. It was a simple moment, but it relaxed the three of them. When they reached the small motel the sisters had been staying at before their accident, Maria hesitated before stepping out. The place looked worn out, with peeling paint and a sign that flickered in the daylight. Jake noticed their hesitation and gently asked, "Is everything all right?" Maria swallowed, choosing her words carefully. "We don't have the room anymore. We didn't get to check out yesterday because of the accident," Elena added softly. "And we don't really have much money left." Jake felt a sudden clarity wash over him, an instinct. Not pity, and not obligation. Just a genuine desire to help two people who clearly needed a safe place to rest. "My ranch isn't far from here," he said calmly. "It's quiet. And there's a guest room you can use for a little while. Just until you get things sorted out." The sisters looked shocked. Their eyes widened, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. "We don't want to trouble you," Maria said. "You've already done so much." It's not trouble, Jake assured her. The house has plenty of space, and you shouldn't be alone right now. Elena looked at her sister, her voice whisper soft. Maria, maybe we should. Maria's eyes softened. She was thinking carefully as an older sister always does. Finally, she nodded. Just for a short time, Maria said. Until we get back on our feet. Jake smiled gently. That's all I'm offering. The ride to the ranch took about 20 minutes. As they approached, the land opened wide into rolling fields, soft hills, and open sky. The sisters stared out the windows, amazed by the peaceful view. Maria leaned slightly forward, as if drawn to the calm surroundings, while Elena smiled quietly, her shoulders relaxing for the first time. Jake parked near the porch and helped them carry their small bags inside. The cabin smelled like fresh wood and warm sunlight. It wasn't fancy, but it felt safe. You can stay in here, Jake said, showing them the guest room. There's clean bedding and towels in the closet. The bathroom is just down the hall. The sisters thanked him again and again, their voices full of relief and quiet gratitude. Jake didn't linger. He stepped outside to give them privacy to settle in. As he stood on the porch, he gazed out at the open land. The wind brushed against him, carrying the faint scent of blooming sage. For the first time in a long while, his home didn't feel empty. Instead, it felt like something new was about to begin, something he couldn't quite name yet. Inside the house, he could hear soft footsteps as the sisters explored their temporary space. He didn't know them well, and he didn't know what challenges they carried. But he felt ready to help however he could, and deep down, he sensed that meeting them wasn't an accident at all. It was the beginning of something unexpected, something that would soon shape all their lives in ways none of them could have imagined. The first morning at Jake's ranch felt different for everyone. The sun rose slowly over the open fields, washing the land in a soft golden glow. Birds called from the nearby trees, and the quiet air made the whole place feel like a safe corner of the world. Inside the cabin, Maria and Elena woke to the gentle sound of horses somewhere in the distance. It was the kind of morning they had not experienced in a long time, calm, unhurried, and peaceful. Maria stepped out of the guest room first, her hair tied back loosely, still looking a little tired but more relaxed than she had been the day before. She found Jake in the kitchen, already making breakfast. The warm smell of fresh eggs and toasted bread filled the air, making her realize how hungry she actually was. You're up early, Jake said with a small smile. So are you, Maria replied. She felt shy for a moment but also comfortable. Thank you for letting us stay here. I hope we're not interrupting your routine. Jake shook his head. Not at all. I'm used to the quiet, but it doesn't hurt to share the space for a while. Elena joined them soon after, rubbing her eyes sleepily. When she saw the breakfast on the table, her face lit up with a joy that made Jake feel surprisingly warm inside. You cooked? She asked, amazed. I cook sometimes, Jake said with a gentle shrug. Figured you two could use something warm this morning. They ate together, and the simple meal felt like something more, a moment of ease between three people who were still getting used to each other. There was no rush, no stress, no heavy conversation, just soft smiles and quiet appreciation. After breakfast, Jake offered to show the sisters around the ranch. They followed him outside, where the open land stretched in every direction. The wind tugged gently at their clothes, carrying the soft scent of grass and earth. Elena walked a little faster, excited by the sight of the horses grazing nearby. Maria kept her steps slow, taking everything in carefully. That one's Scout, Jake said, pointing to a chestnut horse with a bright mane. He's the friendliest one here. Elena's eyes sparkled. Can I pet him? Sure, Jake said. Just move slow so he knows you're friendly. He led her closer, and Scout raised his head, curious. Elena reached out, her hand trembling a little. But when the horse gently nudged her palm, she laughed softly. The sound, light and pure. Maria watched from behind, smiling at her sister's happiness. For a moment, she forgot all the worries they had carried. You're good with animals, Jake said to Elena. I love them, she replied. They make me feel calm. Jake nodded as if he understood perfectly. Animals had always been his comfort too. He glanced at Maria, noticing how she stood with her hands folded, as if she was torn between enjoying the moment and thinking about something else. "You okay?" he asked softly. Maria nodded. "Yes. This place is peaceful. It doesn't feel real." "It's real," Jake said. "And you two are welcome here as long as you need." Her eyes softened. "I don't know how we'll ever thank you." "You don't have to," Jake said simply. The rest of the morning passed with small conversations and quiet walks around the property. Elena wandered freely, exploring every corner with the wide-eyed curiosity of someone who had been afraid for too long. Maria stayed closer to Jake, asking questions about the ranch, how he managed it, how long he had lived there, why he chose this kind of life. Jake answered honestly. He talked about growing up in a small town nearby, learning ranch work from his father, and liking the simple rhythm of the land. He didn't talk much about himself normally, but with Maria listening so softly, he found it easier than usual. "I guess I like fixing things," he said, "and taking care of what's in front of me." Maria looked at him thoughtfully. "You helped us even though you didn't have to. Not everyone would do that." Jake looked out over the fields. "Maybe. But I couldn't just leave you out there." Something gentle passed between them, then a quiet understanding. Neither of them spoke out loud. Around noon, the sisters helped Jake prepare lunch. It was nothing complicated, just sandwiches and fruit. But the shared task felt comfortable. Elena hummed softly as she sliced apples, while Maria wiped the counters. Jake watched them with a quiet sense of warmth he hadn't felt in years. After lunch, Elena rested in the guest room. She had pushed herself earlier and was feeling tired. Maria stayed in the living room, reading a book she had found on Jake's shelf. Jake stepped outside to fix a loose fence board but found himself glancing back toward the cabin more than once. Something about having the sisters there made the ranch feel fuller alive in a new way. When he returned inside later, he found Maria sitting alone, staring out the window with a faraway look. She seemed deep in thought, her fingers lightly gripping the edge of the book. "You look worried," Jake said quietly. Maria startled slightly, then shook her head. "No, not worried. Just thinking." Jake sat down across from her. "Want to talk about it?" She hesitated. For a moment, Jake thought she might refuse. She looked at him, trying to decide how much she could trust him. Trust was not something she gave easily, but then she sighed softly and set the book aside. "There's a lot we haven't told you," she began. Jake nodded. "You don't have to explain anything you don't want to." "I know," she said, "but you took us in. You deserve to know at least something." Her voice was calm, but Jake felt the weight behind it. "We left home quickly," Maria said carefully. "We didn't plan anything well. We were trying to reach someone who could help us, but things didn't go smoothly. The accident happened after a long day of driving. We were tired and stressed." Jake listened without interrupting. Her explanation didn't include anything harsh or scary. It was simple, human, and honest. He didn't need details. He just needed to understand the feeling behind her words. "So you're starting fresh," Jake said gently. Maria nodded. "Yes, or trying to." Jake leaned back slightly. "You're welcome to start from here. You two deserve a safe place to figure things out." Maria's eyes filled with a softness he hadn't seen before. "Why are you being so kind to us, Jake?" He thought about it for a moment. Not rushing, not forcing an answer, just letting the truth reach the surface. "Because sometimes people cross paths for a reason," he said. "And sometimes, helping someone feels like the most natural thing to do." Maria looked down at her hands, touched by his sincerity. For a long moment, they sat in comfortable silence, the kind that didn't need words to fill it. Later, Elena woke from her nap and joined them, stretching with a sleepy smile. She looked brighter, more rested, and she immediately began chatting about how she wanted to help around the ranch the next day. Jake laughed gently, amused by her sudden energy. "You don't have to work," he said. "I want to," she replied. "I want to feel useful." "You are," Jake said. "Both of you." As evening came, the sky turned pink and orange. They had dinner together and sat outside on the porch afterward. The air grew cooler, and the stars slowly appeared, more stars than the sisters had ever seen in one place. Maria leaned back in her chair, looking up in wonder. Elena wrapped a blanket around her shoulders and whispered how safe she felt for the first time in a long while. Jake listened to the soft sounds of their voices and the gentle rustle of the wind. He didn't know what the future would bring, but he knew this moment felt right. 3 people, sitting together under a wide Texas sky, sharing warmth, quiet smiles, and something new that none of them fully understood yet. It wasn't love. It wasn't obligation. It was something deeper, a connection forming naturally, softly, and without force. A turning point, a beginning. Days at the ranch slowly settled into a gentle routine, and each day brought the 3 of them a little closer. Maria and Elena found comfort in the quiet rhythm of the place. Jake found comfort in their presence. He had lived a long time with only the company of animals and open land, and while he never complained about loneliness, he realized now how different life felt with people around, good people who brought a new kind of warmth into his home. Every morning, the sisters would join Jake for breakfast. Elena always appeared first, her hair a little messy, her smile bright and open. She chatted easily about the weather, the horses, the dreams she had during the night. Maria came in more quietly, always taking a moment to observe the morning before speaking. Her calm nature balanced her younger sister's energy, and Jake enjoyed watching the 2 of them together. One late morning, after breakfast, Jake asked if they wanted to help with the ranch chores. He didn't want them to feel obligated, but he knew they enjoyed being useful. "I want to learn how to help," Elena said eagerly. "I like being outside." Maria gave her a fond look. "I can help too. Maybe not with everything, but something." "You both can help with whatever feels comfortable," Jake said. "There's no rush." He showed Elena how to brush Scout. The horse remained still and relaxed as her gentle hands smoothed his coat. She hummed softly, as if singing to him, and Scout seemed to enjoy every moment of attention. Jake watched them from a distance, smiling at the sight. Maria helped Jake collect eggs from the small chicken coop. She held each egg as though it were fragile. Admiring the soft colors and shapes, she asked Jake simple questions: how many chickens he had, how long he had lived here, whether he ever thought of leaving the ranch. "Not really," Jake said honestly. "This place is home. But I guess home can change sometimes." Maria didn't ask what he meant. She simply nodded, understanding that home wasn't always a place, it could be people too. As the days passed, the sisters grew more comfortable. They began cooking with Jake, cleaning small areas of the house, and helping with simple ranch tasks. They laughed more often, smiled more easily, and their shoulders didn't seem as tense as before. One afternoon, when the sun was high and the sky was a clear, bright blue, Jake suggested they take a walk to the far side of the property. It was a peaceful spot with a large oak tree and a small stream that ran beside it. The sisters agreed happily, and the 3 of them set off together. The walk took about 15 minutes. The land around them was quiet except for the soft rustle of the grass and the songs of distant birds. Elena kicked small stones as she walked, swinging her arms playfully. Maria walked beside Jake, keeping her steps measured and thoughtful. When they reached the old oak tree, Elena ran ahead and spread her arms wide. "This place is beautiful," she said. Maria smiled softly, stepping onto the cool grass. "It really is." Jake leaned against the tree trunk. "I come here when I need to think. It's kind of my quiet spot." Maria looked at him with gentle curiosity. "Do you come here often?" "Only when something feels too big to think about inside my head," Jake said. "Nature helps quiet things." Maria nodded slowly. "I understand. Sometimes quiet places help you remember who you are." Elena lay down on the grass, staring up at the sky. "Can we stay here for a while?" she asked sleepily. "As long as you want," Jake replied. They stayed for almost an hour. The sisters talked about small things, foods they liked, songs they remembered from childhood, places they hoped to visit someday. Jake listened more than he spoke, but he enjoyed hearing them dream out loud. It reminded him of something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Eventually they returned to the house, feeling refreshed. That evening, Jake made a simple dinner, warm soup, and soft bread. The three of them ate together on the porch as the sky darkened. It felt like a scene from a story. A cowboy and two sisters, brought together by chance, now sharing laughter and quiet comfort under the endless Texas sky. After dinner, the atmosphere shifted slightly, not in a bad way, but in a meaningful way. Maria lingered outside after clearing the dishes, watching the stars appear one by one. Jake stepped out after her, letting the screen door creak softly behind him. "You like the night sky?" Jake asked. Maria nodded. "It makes me feel small in a peaceful way." Jake stood beside her. "Sometimes, it makes me feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Maria turned to him, her expression thoughtful and kind. "Jake, we've been thinking a lot since coming here. Being around you, being on this ranch, it feels safe. It feels new. It feels like we're slowly becoming ourselves again." Jake met her eyes with gentle sincerity. "I'm glad you feel that way. But we know we can't stay forever," Maria added softly. Jake felt a small ache in his chest, unexpected but undeniable. "I know," he said. "But you don't have to rush to leave." Maria gave a small smile. "You've been almost like a shelter to us." "I'm just doing what feels right," Jake replied. "You've done more than that," she said softly. Inside, Elena peeked out from the doorway, watching the two of them with a quiet smile. She didn't want to interrupt, but she seemed happy just knowing they were talking. Over the next few days, Jake noticed a tiny shift in the air around them, not tension, not worry, but something gentle and warm. The sisters trusted him more. They asked him questions about his life, teased him lightly about his old truck, and shared small memories they had kept guarded before. Jake felt his world expanding in ways he never expected. One day, while Jake and Maria were preparing lunch, Elena came running inside from the porch. "There's a rainbow," she said excitedly. Jake and Maria stepped outside, and sure enough, a bright arc stretched across the sky, glowing against the clouds. Elena stood beneath it with her arms raised high, laughing as the sunlight warmed her face. "It feels like a sign," she said. Maria looked at her sister fondly. "A sign of what?" "That things can get better," Elena said simply. "That good days can come after hard ones." Jake watched the sisters stand together under the rainbow, and something inside him settled with quiet certainty. He didn't know how long they would stay. He didn't know what their next steps would be. But he did know one thing. This bond they shared, this unusual, unexpected connection was real and meaningful. Later that evening, as they sat together inside the cozy living room, Jake looked at the sisters and said softly, "You don't have to decide anything yet. Just know, you're not alone anymore." Maria's eyes glimmered with calm gratitude. Elena smiled brightly, leaning closer to her sister. In that warm, quiet room, something finally shifted. Not loudly, not suddenly, just a gentle turning point that all three of them felt in their hearts. A choice was forming a path they might walk together, not because they had to, but because, strangely and beautifully, they wanted to. Time moved gently, almost like a soft breeze passing through the ranch, touching everything without rushing. For Jake, Maria, and Elena, the days blended into a natural rhythm full of small moments that slowly shaped something beautiful between them. Nothing dramatic happened, yet everything changed. It was the kind of change that grows quietly like roots spreading under the soil before anyone sees the leaves rise. Weeks had passed since the sisters first came to the ranch, but each morning still felt new and meaningful. They continued to help with chores, cook meals together, and share conversations that grew deeper, little by little. Yet underneath all the comfort, a quiet understanding grew among them. Life was bringing them somewhere none of them had expected. One soft morning, Jake walked outside to feed the horses, expecting the usual quiet hum of the ranch. But this time, he found something different. When he stepped out onto the porch, he saw Maria sitting on the wooden steps, wrapped in a light blanket. She was watching the sunrise, her eyes soft and peaceful. Jake paused. She looked calm in a way he hadn't seen before, not tired, not guarded, not lost, just present. He stepped forward slowly so he wouldn't startle her. "You're up early," he said gently. Maria turned her head and smiled softly. "Couldn't sleep." The sunrise looked too pretty to miss. Jake sat beside her, leaving enough space to be respectful but close enough to feel the warmth of the moment. They watched the sky together, the colors shifting from pale pink to bright gold. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," Maria said after a moment. Jake nodded, waiting without pushing. He had learned that giving her space was one of the kindest things he could do. Maria looked down at her hands. "When we first came here, we were lost. Not just on the road, but inside. We didn't know what would happen or where we were going. But then you helped us. And everything slowly changed." Jake listened quietly. He didn't speak. He just let her talk. "You didn't ask questions," she continued. "You didn't judge us or make us feel like a burden. You simply gave us a place to breathe again." Her voice softened. "A place to feel safe." Jake shifted slightly, touched by her words yet humble as always. "I'm glad I could help," he said softly. Maria looked at him with gentle eyes. "You did more than help. You gave us a new start." Before Jake could respond, the screen door creaked open, and Elena stepped out, rubbing her sleepy eyes and wearing a warm smile. "There you two are," she said cheerfully. "I woke up and couldn't find either of you." She sat down on the porch steps beside them, leaning lightly against Maria's shoulder. Elena had always been more open with her emotions than her older sister, and now she looked at Jake with bright sincerity. "This place feels like home," she said softly. "I didn't think I would ever say that about anywhere again." Jake felt something settle inside him. Not heavy, not confusing, just real. He glanced at the sisters, who sat close to each other. Wrapped in the soft glow of the morning, he finally spoke. "You know, you two being here has changed this place for me too." Elena tilted her head, curious. "Changed it how?" Jake took a breath, choosing his words slowly. "The ranch used to be quiet. Peaceful, yes. But also empty in some ways. It felt like the days blended together without much meaning. But having you here makes it feel alive, like something is growing not outside, but in here." He lightly tapped his chest. Maria's eyes grew warm. Elena smiled as if she already knew. The three of them sat together for a long time, letting the quiet truth of the moment sink in. None of them rushed to put a name on what they were feeling. It wasn't necessary. Later that day, Elena helped Jake plant herbs in the small garden. She knelt in the soil with a playful grin, smudging dirt on her cheek by accident. Jake laughed and handed her a cloth. She wrinkled her nose and wiped her face, laughing too. Maria watched them from the porch, her heart full. She joined them after a minute, offering to water the newly planted herbs. Together, they worked in harmony, moving like people who understood each other without needing many words. In the afternoon, the weather softened, and a gentle breeze swept across the ranch. The three sat under the old oak tree again, the same tree Jake had once called his quiet place. Now, it was their place, a spot where they felt grounded and connected. Elena lay on the grass, pointing at cloud shapes. Maria leaned back against the tree trunk, eyes closed in contentment. Jake sat between them, listening to their voices and feeling a warmth he couldn't remember feeling before. "You know," Elena said suddenly, "I've been thinking about taking online classes again. Maybe finishing my studies." Jake's eyes brightened. "That's a wonderful idea." Elena grinned proudly. "I feel like I can finally think about the future again." Maria touched her sister's hand gently. "You should. You deserve it." Elena nodded, then looked at Jake. "And Maria's been thinking about staying in town for work." Maria blushed slightly. "Elena, it's true," Elena said with a sweet smile. "She's good with people. She'd be wonderful at any job she chooses." Jake looked at Maria with thoughtful eyes. "You'd be great at anything." Maria's expression softened at his confidence in her. As the days unfolded, things became lighter, steadier. The sisters no longer rushed through their days with fear or uncertainty. They walked with purpose, helped with joy, and rested with ease. And Jake, he felt like he belonged in a way he never had before. One evening, the three sat inside as a gentle rain tapped softly on the windows. The warm glow of the lamps made the room feel cozy. Elena was reading a book, Maria was sewing a small tear in one of Jake's shirts, and Jake was polishing a saddle. It was a peaceful silence, the kind shared by people who cared for one another without needing to fill every moment with conversation. After a while, Maria looked up. "Jake," she said softly. He glanced up. "Yeah? We want to stay." Jake blinked. "Stay? For a little longer?" Maria shook her head gently. "Not just for a little longer. We want to make this place our home. If you'll have us." Elena looked up from her book, her eyes shining. "We don't want to leave. We belong here with you, and with the ranch." Jake felt his heart swell. The feeling was warm, steady, and unmistakable. He didn't need to think. He didn't need to hesitate. "I'd like that," he said softly. "More than you know." The sisters smiled real. Full smiles that reached all the way to their eyes. And just like that, a new chapter began. There was no grand announcement, no dramatic moment, just a gentle understanding that three lives had somehow woven together into something stable and beautiful. Over the next few weeks, their new life took shape naturally. Elena started her online courses and spent afternoons helping Jake fix small things around the ranch. She laughed easily, learned quickly, and added light to every corner of the house. Maria found part-time work in town and returned each evening with stories about the people she met. She cooked supper with Jake, walked around the ranch with him, and shared soft conversations on the porch long after the stars appeared. And Jake, he realized he wasn't alone anymore. He had found something he never expected: a family, a purpose, a destiny shaped not by chance, but by kindness, trust, and the simple courage of opening one's heart. He had rescued two women on a dark night, but in truth, they had rescued him too. Together, they built a quiet, steady happiness. One sunrise, one garden, one warm evening at a time. A destiny not chosen by force or fear, but by gentle care and shared hope. And that was the most beautiful part of all.